everybody, welcome to Redbird Landscape Design. I'm Anissa Turner. Let's get into this. Bananas. So I'm standing next to my dwarf Cavendish banana. Intentionally planted where I'm at, right beside a fence line, probably about 4 feet off, 5 feet. Put here intentionally because bananas need a windbreak protection if we get really high winds, and here in Florida we have the opportunity of having hurricanes and very high winds. So I intentionally placed this plant next to the fence line to hopefully give it protection. I also have the house, which is about 15 feet away in the other direction, and a neighboring home as well. So hopefully, right plant, right place every time. Hopefully I nailed it in this situation, trying to make sure that the plant gets the best opportunity to grow and expand. What I'm going to do today is, as you can see down here at the bottom, I have a really small tree well. I'm going to expand that tree well out, probably 2 feet all the way around in diameter. Helps the plant keep moisture, as bananas are a huge water hog. Also keeps weeds down, and as well, bananas are big feeders. They want a lot of organic matter. So when I bring up this tree well 2 feet, I'll put down some really great mulch that will break down and help as well to push nutrients back into the soil, which is exactly what the plant needs to grow and thrive. Another thing that we're going to do today is we're going to take off these lower branches. Here, probably 4 of them. I have a pruning saw and seconders or snips that can cut through this quite easily because it's not too big of a plant. Its top leaf is probably 7 feet up in the air, the one way up above here. Another thing that we're going to do today is I have suckers down here. These are sword suckers. Here, and here. There's 3 of them. The rule of thumb is to take them off and remove them once they're 3 feet high. That way you know for sure when you've cut through them with a sharp shovel is how you do it, or a saw. Either way. That way when they're 3 feet, there's a pretty good opportunity, a chance that they're going to actually have a root system. You cut a sucker off of the parent plant, which is the established plant. You want to make sure it has roots so that it can continue to grow and you will multiply and have more bananas. They say that once you have a banana tree, you will always have bananas. Not a bad thing. A little bit of background and information regarding bananas. There are approximately 70 species of bananas. Some of them are actually cold hardy. Most of them are not. They're originally from a rainforest environment, native to Asia, Africa, and Australia. They definitely need full sun, which is at least 6 hours a day. Plants need the sun to generate sugars and proteins, which eventually helps to generate fruit, in this case, which it is a fruiting plant. Bananas are actually not a tree. They are a rhizome. So some of you are probably thinking, what the heck's a rhizome? So it's a base piece that has a central portion to it that can send up the top growth, which is you're seeing right here in front of me, the leaves, and down at the base, it'll send out a root system. It can store all those proteins and starches that it's going to need to survive through those months when it doesn't have an active growing season. Super important portion of this, before we get into the actual digging and cleaning up the plant, you want to choose the perfect planting site. It's the key to success. Spacing is super important as well. You want to account for the height. This is going up about 7 feet. And the width, how far out this plant's going to grow. Before I actually put it in the ground, I was standing out here literally with a tape measure, knowing its full size at maturity, how big it's going to get once it's done its full growth cycle, and if I'm going to have enough room. And as you can see, the wind's blowing through here. That's another really critical point. You want to have good air circulation. You don't want to have this banana jammed right up against the fence line. It's not going to get very good air circulation, and you'll have disease and insect problems, mold, mildews, especially we have such humidity here in Florida, definitely would end up being a problem for you. So you're probably wondering, why am I going to cut back these bottom leaves? Well, a plant, to be able to produce, especially a fruit tree, well, this isn't a tree like I mentioned, but a plant that wants to produce fruit takes a lot of energy to push out leaves. And as they start to yellow out, like this one is along the edges, this one back here in the rear, you want to take them off because the removal of them puts that energy they would have put into these extra leaves back into the main tree. A technique common in banana culture and care is called chop and drop, just like this. Cut it right off, I'm literally going to drop it down underneath the tree. Cut it up a little bit more in smaller pieces. Drop it down underneath the base of the plant. As those pieces biodegrade and break down, they'll drop nutrients down into the soil, which is what bananas love. They're big eaters, big feeders, and they'll thrive on all those nutrients coming back into the plant. You can see that I cut back very closely to the main stem of the parent plant, and you'll see like it was super wet. A lot of water came pouring out of it when I cut them off. The shovel I'm going to use to dig out my tree well is something that's used for trench digging. It's a narrow base. Here in Florida, I don't have heavy clay soil, so I don't have to dig way down. All I do is I drop down a couple inches to just get underneath the root system of the weeds and the grasses that I have growing here. And it's really easy to lift it and pull it out. Basically, it's like using a pair of scissors. I'm going to cut around the edge, do my tree well, the width of my tree well, and then start lifting it up. Now I'm going to cut into sections, so when I lift it, I'm not trying to pull up a whole huge carpet of turf. It's a little bit wet, so it's going to be a bit of a challenge. Now that I've got it dug out, I'm going to put the leaves down on top. That way it'll break down easier. Dug out the tree well, chop and drop, took off the bottom leaves, dropped it immediately down in the tree well. We'll put mulch down on top of that. Bananas do best when planted in groups together, really close together, as in maybe a couple feet. Make sure you water them regularly. You don't want it soggy, just evenly, just so that the soil doesn't dry out. Overwatering will definitely create root rot with bananas. Fertilizing bananas, I didn't do anything this year because when I planted it, I put three large logs in the hole, the planting hole. It's getting a lot of nutrients and great organic material from those logs as they break down. So I didn't fertilize, but next year I will put it on a regular fertilizing regimen. Last but not least, you're all going to want to know, when do I harvest the bananas? What will happen is it'll put out a flower. It's a really funky looking flower. Then the bananas will come on behind the flower. Once the bananas plump up and get like a thicker mass, like what you're used to seeing in a grocery store, then you can harvest them, even when they're green. Some folks have a hard time getting the bananas before critters and various animals will get to them. Raccoons, possums, rats. Yes, unfortunately, we have a rat issue in Florida. Thankfully, I haven't had any. But you can pick the hands of bananas when they're still on the green side and then store them in a cool, dry space so that they can ripen naturally. So that's a wrap with the banana care and maintenance. Some people say that they're really intimidated by planting a banana because it's a banana tropical plant. If you're in an area where you can put one in the ground, give it a shot. It's really easy to grow, not difficult at all. If you have any questions or I've missed anything, please don't hesitate to put any information or questions or comments in the comment box below. I'll be sure to get back to you. We'll see you next time in the transplanting video. Have a great one.